Laura, first of all, thanks for coming on and congratulations on you and Jason's second child, Monty. How is everything going in the Kinney household?
Sleepless nights, lots and lots of sleepless nights. I mean, I keep joking every time I take Albie into school, right? I keep joking with the teachers and I'm like, oh, he's a terrible sleeper, but it can't get much worse. And then it gets much worse. And so like last night, honestly, it was like the longest night. And Jace just sleeps through it. Like, honestly, it got to 3 a.m. and I'm like, oh, it's sickening. Yeah, it got to like 3 a.m., right? And I'm like, he's pooed. I am not getting back out of bed. And I'm like, Jason, he's pooed. And he just ignores me. I'm like, Jason, just get up. I'm not getting up again. He's pooed.
How do you guys
And then he's just like, oh. What'd you say, sorry?
No, I was going to say, how do you guys balance it? Like, you guys are both these incredible athletes. And it's just like, okay, you go and do your training. Okay, I'm going to do mine.
I mean, obviously, Jason's now a coach. So, like, when we had Albie and we were both doing it, we just completely underestimated how difficult it was with you both doing it and wanting to bring him up yourself. Like, we were never out to like have nannies round or whatever. Like, we wanted to bring Albie up. And so the only way that we could actually physically get it to work was basically I would do the night shift. And then when it got to 6 o'clock in the morning, Jason would take Albie away. And then that's when I would sleep. So then I'd get like 2 hours in the morning. And then obviously I'd have him back again. And then we would just rotate like who was looking after him so the other one could go and train. Whereas Jason's now a coach, so it is a little bit easier.
Right.
But to compete at the level you do, like with sleep deprivation, or, that sounds like, I don't know, almost impossible, right, with what you do. You know how successful you are and how successful you've been since
it's
having
funny, right?
Your first kid.
I mean, I think we learned that actually athletes can be quite soft and like you can really, you can convince yourself that you need a lot more sleep and rest and whatever than you actually do, because like it worked for us. Like I always used to think 8 hours, I need 8 hours, and I'd be like a proper princess about it. Like if I didn't get 8 hours, the next day was going badly. But then obviously Albie come along, or you're lucky to get 8 minutes some nights, and so you're just like, no, get through it, it's absolutely fine. And then you'd go and train and actually you'd be fine. Like, so I think as athletes, sometimes you can be a bit like sensitive when really, when you're thrown in the deep end, you've got to deal with it anyways.
Well, this brings us actually to something that Rob's been talking to me about nonstop. He set the hour record and we were talking about
Graham Aubrey.
Yes. And so, okay, I want Rob to tell this story and I want you to fact check him and I want your opinion on it as well.
Well, you're about to hear all my knowledge of track cycling, right? But it's true, right, that some tracks are way faster than others. And if you're going for the hour record, of course, you need... I did get into it. I know that people used to put sellotape down the front of the forks to try and deflect the wind. People have even tried filling their tyres with helium, right, to make the wheels lighter. I know all this. But Graham Aubrey built his own bike. He took the main bearing was out at the back of his washing machine for his bottom bracket. He invented all these weird positions. The aerodynamic. He would only ride, I believe he would only train twice a week for an hour each time on a fixed gear. And if he didn't feel good in the first 5 minutes, he'd go home. And then he went to beat Moser for the hour record. And he rented a track for 24 hours, had a go, missed it by a few hundred metres. They were like, oh, it's bad luck, Graham. And he was like, hang on, we got 14 hours left on the rental. I'm going to go to bed. Got up at every hour, drank a pint of water through the night and stretched a parrot, and then went back the next day and got the hour record. That's true, right?
Oh, then did it. Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah. He did it. Yeah, he did it the day after. I mean, it is insane, yeah. Because have you heard, when you hear people who have done the hour record, they're like, it was hell on earth. Like, they never want to do it ever again. He just goes, sod it, I'll try again tomorrow. As if it was nothing.
The physical effort is like, it's just, I don't know how you'd, how he couldn't have been recovered, but he did it. Is it something you've ever thought of then, going for the hour record on the track?
Absolutely not. That would just be honestly my worst nightmare.
Why? Why not?
Just the pain and the boredom. Like, I can't tell you, it'd just be, oh God, because it's just lap after lap. Like, seriously, right, we do an event that's an individual pursuit, which is literally just you on your own for 3 kilometres. And I cannot tell you how boring it is. It's just going round. It's the same
Honestly,
old. Like,
you find your sport
for an
boring.
hour.
I can't get my head around that.
Well, no, the group stuff.
You've won an Olympic gold.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's a bit tedious. 5 more laps to go. Oh my God, how am I going to pass the time?
Yeah, but when you're on your own to when you're in a group, it's very different.
Yeah, and what? I mean, I don't.
Yeah, Laura.
Let's have a chat about, because we really don't know much, ashamedly, about the different disciplines on the track.
Yeah.
And I know it gets weird and wonderful. There's motorbikes involved. There's all sorts of stuff going on, right?
Give us a bit of an overview.
Okay, right. So Team Pursuit has always been my favourite. It's changed loads. So when I first started, there was only 3 of us that did it, and that was a 3 kilometre. And then they changed it. So after London 2012, they said they want us to be the same as the men. And the men was obviously 4K with 4 men. So they changed ours to 4K with 4 women. And then obviously that's just 4 kilometres as fast as the team can go. So you're going as fast as your weakest rider. From a standing start, yeah.
And that's the one where someone
positions.
I was going to say, is that the one where you constantly dip? You get to the front, you peel back.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, and I mean, that's evolved so much recently because obviously the kit's getting better, so the times are getting faster, and so it's really just you can do as little or as much as you want on the front, depending on how fast the team's going.
And
that's always the better one.
Just pick on something you said then, So you said the kit is getting better all the time, right? Now, I'm going to ask you how, because as far as I know, you ride a fully rigid bike with no brakes and no gears. I guess, the aerodynamics are getting better or what? But it's a bicycle, how can it get fundamentally better?
Well, because, more and more research gets put in. Track cycling as a sport is getting more and more, money orientated. The teams that have got the most sponsors have the most money to put into, the development of the equipment. And they tend to now be the better squads. But yeah, it just changes all the time. So what we wear has changed every Olympics that I've been to. And it's all different materials. It's all made out of different materials, different positions. It's basically how low you can get your head a lot of the time, when you're on your tri-bars.
Are there any rules about what you can and can't use?
Yeah, there is. So actually, Graham Abree's position is banned. So you're not allowed to use that position. And yeah, because it's quite dangerous because of how far his arms are away from the front wheel. So the steering is actually quite dangerous. But even now, to be honest, I'd say a lot of the positions. Lots of people can't see. We've seen some really stupid crashes recently because people are just riding with their head down.
Is that right? Well, you say people can't see. They literally can't see. They're literally looking at a metre in front of the wheel.
Seriously. No, yeah, right. So at the Olympics, our men's team split, right? Not ideal. You don't really want your team to split. And one of them ends up just on his own. And he's obviously supposed to be with his team, but he ends up on his own. And the Danish guy just plows straight through him and wipes him out. And when you look at it on telly, you're like, what the hell? When we were watching it back, we're like, he just rode into him. He literally rode into him. But it's because obviously he's just head down, not expecting anyone to be there. And he just took him off. That was it.
Because I guess I don't think about it riding mountain bikes, but you could almost ride the track with your eyes closed, I guess, because you've done it so many times.
Some of them can.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, me personally, I wouldn't want to. I was never very good at getting my head all the way down because I just think it's I want to see what's ahead, I don't want to be no bowling ball.
And so can you explain some of the other disciplines? You've competed in Team Pursuit and the Omnium, right? Those are your kind of two main disciplines.
What is Omnium?
Yeah, so the Omnium, right, so it's like a heptathlon without the really complicated scoring. So we have, again, that's changed. So when I first started, it was 3 events on one day and then 3 events on day 2. And then your results add up and then the person with the most wins, obviously. Whereas they then changed it for Rio. So then it was the person with the least amount of points then went on to win. And now it's actually only on one day. So now they've dropped it to 4 events on one day. Yeah, so it's a bit, that one to me is more of an endurance kind of event because now as well it's finished in 2 hours.
So it's
thing? You do one race. Yeah. So you do one race, you come off, you have 10 minutes. The Olympics was insane. It was just get on, get off, get on, get off, get on, get off until it was finished.
Did you like that approach to it or would you rather, Do you like the way it's evolved,
Oh,
or
well.
did you prefer it when it was like more chilled over a couple of days?
Yeah, well, more chilled. I'm biased because I
thought
didn't
you
win
might say
the one on the phone. So yeah, you can sack it off. I preferred it how it was.
And what was it like, I guess, like talking about the Olympics, like for me, man, like going to the Olympics and especially like in London in 2012, like what was that like?
Oh, just insane. Like, honestly, I never expected to go. So to be called up and for them to say, oh, you're going to a home Olympics. I mean, I was 20 at the time and I was thinking, God, this is quality. Like, yeah, all right, I'll go. And like, you don't really even think about it because it happened so fast. It was like 18 months of being on the GB program and I'm going to the Olympics. But then it wasn't until I was there that I was like, wow, like this is a really big deal. Because obviously, to me, I was just training for a bike race. It didn't matter where it was. It could have been anywhere in the world. But until you turn up, it was like, wow, I'm at a home games. And everyone, obviously, all the support was for you. Like, it was madness.
And so it's interesting that you say you were only on the GB team for 18 months. Like, how did you get into track in the first place? Because it feels like looking at the results, you came in and then you just won everything from like kind of from then on out. Like, what was your kind of upbringing and journey into cycling like?
I mean, it's funny actually because my dad's just come round to look after Monty and we were just talking about it then, how we basically fell at track cycling. Like, it was never the plan because Albie does everything at the minute. He's doing like tennis, basketball, he rides his bike, he does swimming, because I'm like, he'll fall at one of them. Like, one of them he will be good at, right. And then he'll have his thing then. Whereas we were just like not a sporting family at all. So my mum actually chose cycling as a form of losing weight. So she lost 8.5 stone in a year and a half by riding a bike and by spin classes. Yeah, so like we were really not, like my dad played cricket, but that was it. Like we were never really like into sport at all, to be honest. And then
a mad cycling family at all, really? Then
no, like not at all, no. Like, so it was actually at our swim lessons. So my mum always said she didn't care what we did as long as we could swim. And so swimming was like the thing that she forced. So off we go swimming. And I mean, to be honest, I'm terrible at swimming. I don't even really like it. Like when Albie goes, do you want to go swimming? I'm like, oh, if we have to.
Troll drowning.
Like, I'm not really.
Pretty bad at it.
And so we met someone down there that said to my mum, because my mum obviously was talking to another mum, and she'd said, you know, I've got into cycling, and she said, why don't you come down to Welling, which is just like a local outdoor track to us. And like we went along, and actually, you know what, I didn't even really like it at the time. It just wasn't really like my thing. But once you start winning,
a bit boring maybe.
Yeah, a bit boring. Yeah, you're just riding around in circles. I mean, it's pretty damn boring.
Goodness me.
But then when you start winning, it was a different ball game. I like that feeling.
I guess so. Yeah.
Well, and then I was like, well, I might be good at this. I reckon I could stick this out for a little bit longer. And then that was it then. Me and my sister did it, like, because my sister was a professional as well, but she was on the road, whereas obviously I'm track.
I mean, you said, like, one thing I just picked up on was, like, you said that your favourite event was three or 4K in a team. What sort of, so you don't train like a road rider doing the Tour de France then, right? I guess yours is it more power-based, your training? Yeah,
so we spend lots of time in the gym. And yeah, because I mean, we're really middle distance. Like if you were going to compare us to like an athletics, we're really middle distance. Like road being your marathon, us being like your 1500. And then obviously you've got the sprinters that are like pure, like I said, Jason is like pure speed. But a lot of our training was gym based. So we spent a lot of time, 3 times a week basically in the gym.
Is that right? Yeah. And how much time would you get out on a bike then? You do go out on the roads and train, or do you just train on a track, on that bike?
No, so that we do like blocks. I mean, actually, we don't spend that much time on the track at all. It's only really like the last 6 weeks before a competition that we would come in on the track. And to be honest, 6 weeks being the most. And that would be like before World Championships. The Olympics, probably a bit more, like 8 weeks before the Olympics. But if we were just doing, say, like a qualifying event that we didn't really, like it was more for points rather than actually to go and win that bike race, we'd have like a week on the track and then we'd go and do it.
And so now, I guess, what do your weeks look like now? And you're going to be competing in the Olympics next year. So are you already getting prepared for that?
It's a slow and steady. It's annoying. I mean, I say it's annoying. Obviously, I wouldn't change having a baby for the world, but it's so slow recovery. It's unbelievable. Like there's been so many times that I'm like, can we just move this on already? Because we have to start from scratch. Like really, I mean, I can't even tell you how basic the ab sessions are that I have to do. And yeah, and just like, so I said, oh, can I put a bar on my back in the gym? And my physio was like, absolutely not. Not yet. You need to just wait. Like, you can do body work, like you can do body weight for the time being. That's fine. But I've started on the turbo. Like, so, because I'm basically just following what I did with Albie. So it's just really slow and steady for like a good 3 months. And then I can really go from there.
And what is it that motivates you? Like you're the most winningest British athlete, of all time. Like what brings you back to competing?
Right, like each time it's been very different. So like the first time, right, London 2012, just wanted to be Olympic champion. Like it was my childhood dream. Like, because even Albie now asks me, and he's like, what did you want to be when you're younger? And I'm like, I wanted to be Olympic champion. Like I just did. Like from the minute I knew I was good at cycling, that was like the pinnacle for me. So I was like, right, Olympic champ. And then after that, I wanted to prove that I wasn't just a one-hit wonder. And I know it sounds mad to say because it's the Olympics. It's not like it comes that easy. You should be really pleased that you've gone on to win the Olympics. But I wanted to prove that I could do it again. And so obviously Rio comes around and then I went and did it again. And then after that, I had Albie. And then for me, it was just to prove that you could have a baby. Like, you could do both. Like, when I fell pregnant with Albie, everyone thought I was mental. Like, they just thought that's the end of her career. Yeah. And I was so determined to show to everyone that actually, no, that's not the case. Like, you can do both. Like, you can be an athlete and have a child.
Right.
And then, so then obviously Tokyo come around. And then that one wasn't as, like, obviously we won the Madison and got second in the team pursuit. So, I mean, I was a little bit disappointed with the team pursuit, but I mean, I still could prove that you could do both.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Did you notice a difference then, like physiologically in your body after you've had a child? Did it change you as an athlete?
Yeah, I mean, it really did. So I've always been really sprint based. Like I've always been, everyone would say like I'm more fast twitch than any of the endurance riders that are on British cycling. Because I mean, there was a time that I did do sprint instead of endurance. But then once I had Albie, I'd say the fast twitch of me took forever to come back. And I don't think it ever was back to the kind of level that it was at pre-Albie. Like I think I ended up being more endurance than sprint.
And so is that why you chose the Madison? What is the Madison, I guess? Because that was kind of the first Olympics that you had competed in that. Is that right?
Yeah. So it came in for Tokyo. So it was the first time that it'd been in the Olympic cycle for women altogether. So it used to be in for men. So right up until 2008, the men had an Olympic Madison, but the women never did. And then AS came in Tokyo. So me and Katie Archibald went and did that. I mean, it was just an event that I always thought would suit me. It's on off, like it's literally constantly on off, and the on is so on. Like it is literally like if you were going to make an event for me, the Madison would be it. Just because it's like, bam, you're in. Oh, you're out, you're resting. Bam, you're in. Like, so if you said to me, go and ride 120 laps as fast as you can, I would be terrible. Like, I would be so far down the pecking list. But because it is on, off, on, off, on, off, it's just made for me. Like, it's for my kind of makeup.
How does it work, the Madison? What, like, on, off? It sounds like it starts and stops. I've got no idea what you're talking about, to be quite honest.
What is the format of that chaos. It is right, it's absolute chaos, right? So basically, it's 120 laps, yeah? The two of you are doing it together. And every time you see your partner, you sling them in. But just to add to the melee, it sprints. So it sprints every 10 laps. So you've got to, like, time it right. But you've got people, like, some people have barely done it. So, like, sometimes, right, you'll drop into this race and I'll look and I'll be like, oh, my God, I'm going to die. Like, there is just no way I'm getting through this. Like, there's just bodies everywhere.
No way.
But then actually, once you're in it, and once it's going well, it's just, yeah, it's the best race. Like the Olympics, right? We had a plan. We went in to Tokyo with a plan, and I've never done a race where we could just execute it. And I mean, there is crashes happening all around us. If I tell you there was like 20 crashes in that race, like it was unbelievable. But me and Katie are just at the front, just like, bam, okay, change in, you're in. And then it got to like the last 10 laps, and I'm like, oh my God, we've won. And there's never been a race where I've been like so confident that we were going to win. It was weird.
Yeah, because you guys won like 10 of the 12 sprints, which is it's crazy, right?
Yeah, so when we went into it, we said we had to score in every sprint. I mean, never did I think that we would win 10 of them. Like, I mean, we won by like 20 points or something. In fact, I think it might have been 30 points. Like, it was ridiculous. But it just went to plan. Like, some days you just have a race like that. Like, other days, you like, I've heard so many people say that Madison for us was perfect, and that you should never, like, look back at that one and think that's realistic, because you'll never get a race that will happen so, like that
mad,
again.
Isn't it,
really.
that? Like, it was always perfect. As perfect as it could be.
Yeah.
How long's 120 laps take, just out of interest? How long's the Madison event?
Like half an hour, like just over half an hour, I think.
You're halfway to the hour record there.
Yeah, but with a friend. If I could do the hour record with a friend, then yeah. It'd be different.
What's the biggest appeal of track cycling to you? It sounded to me then like that all-out effort just to bury yourself in a sprint. That even sounds quite appealing to me a little bit. Like, just to, on that bike, that on a track, it's made, isn't it? It's made to be sprinted. It's made for speed.
Oh yeah, like, and the velodrome, just obviously it is a speed event, just the way it is. You know what I mean? Like, just the way, with the fact that it is a bowl, and the fact that they're always enclosed, and just, I can't tell you the atmosphere in a velodrome. Like, yeah, I know when you go out on the Tour de France, right, and when you see them in the mountain stages, and I think, wow, like, I would love to experience that. But there is nothing like the experience that you get in a velodrome. London 2012 was the first velodrome to have people standing around the banking as well. And it was just like a consistent noise, like the whole way round. And like that for me is it. Like, you're so close to the fans. And it's just like the buzz in that place is unbelievable.
Sounds like that's definitely a big part of what keeps bringing you back then. Even hearing you talk about it, you can feel it. You know what I mean? I can feel what it must, like you say, a mad experience at that level, huh?
Oh, definitely, yeah. And like, it is, like, there's no other, for me, like, there's no other place like it. Like, being in that velodrome, like, there's just no other place like it. I love it.
And like, talking about the fans and things like that, what has it been like, I guess, dealing with the fame, like you're like a superstar? I feel like in the Olympics, compared to maybe what we would do or traditional athletics, the Olympics kind of catapults you into this kind of stardom that most athletes don't ever experience. How has that been?
Well, I mean, after 2012, like, it was a shock. Like, as much as everyone said to me, if you win a gold medal at a home games, it's going to change your life. You don't actually think about the outcome, obviously. Like, so I would never think about winning a gold medal. It was always about just going and competing and doing what I could, and then whatever that was would be the outcome. And you never think, oh, I'm going to be Olympic champion at the end of the day. But it was like an overnight switch. It was mad. Obviously, teamed with the fact that Jason and I decided to say we were together after that Olympics.
Right.
So it was just like, just the interest in the two of us just was something else after that. But then you do then just get used to it, and it's actually quite nice. Like, I have so many parents come up to me and say, like, you're a role model for my children, like, you've been a role model for my daughter. So as much as it does bring stress a lot of the time, like, when I go into the velodrome, people are completely expecting me to win now.
Yeah.
Like, whether I'm on a good day or a bad day, like, they're expecting you to go out there and perform how you did at every Olympics. But on the flip side, actually having people come up to us and say, oh, you've inspired me to get on a bike, is actually quite nice. Like, so it is actually quite a nice balance, really.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because, Jason also, your husband, is also this super decorated athlete. Did you guys think about that when you were getting together? Like, what was that the thing that, like, drew you to each other? Was like, oh, like, here's the best. These are the two best people in the sport.
No, I mean, it's funny because, like, well, I mean, I had never actually even seen an Olympic medal, right? And I remember I went round to Jason's parents' house, and Jason's mum had his Beijing, because this is before 2012, because we were actually together before the Olympics, but British Cycling were like, look, if this comes out before the Games, everyone, like, the attention is just going to be on that. It's going to feel like so much pressure. And obviously, because I was young, and like British Cycling were brilliant at like managing the situation. There's not many people, I don't think, that would come up to them and be like, you maybe shouldn't tell anyone that you've got a new boyfriend who happens to be on the programme also trying to win another Olympic gold medal. Right. Whereas they were just so to the point where they were like, really, for your benefit, I don't think you should say anything until afterwards. And then, I went round to his house and his mum's got his medal out, and I'm like, whoa. Like, it was just mad that it was like his Olympic gold medal. But no, like, you don't think of it. If you went into the velodrome, right, and said at the time, do you think Jason and Laura would be together? Everyone would be like, absolutely not. She don't shut up and he don't like people that talk. And so, like, you just wouldn't put us together at all. Yeah. But it's like yin and yang. Like, I just talk for him, it's fine. And he accepts that.
Perfect.
So when you guys go to the Olympics now, I guess, like, what is it like? Well, I guess, will this be the first Olympics that he's not competing in and you are?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, he'll still be there. Yeah. I can't imagine going to an Olympics with him not being there, because obviously he's been there for everyone that I've been to.
I mean, Laura, did you ever think that you would take cycling as far as you have? Like, when you thought about winning that first gold, like, did you ever think that it was going to change your life like it has?
No, like, not at all. Like, really. And it's funny as well, because when we first got into track cycling, it wasn't really a sport. Like, I remember riding down the road. So when you're younger, obviously I didn't do gym, and obviously I started quite young. So 8 was when I actually first started getting into cycling, and that's when we first went down to this outdoor velodrome in Welling. And it just wasn't a thing. Like, you didn't have your Sir Bradley Wiggins and your Sir Chris Hoys. Like, they hadn't won yet, and so it wasn't cool. And I actually remember riding down our high street, and I was just like, and there was like a row of shops, and I was just like, oh my God, I just don't want anyone to look at me. Like, no one can see the fact that I'm wearing a helmet and I'm riding a road bike. Right. Because, like, it wasn't cool. Like, no one else did it. And so at the time I was just like, this isn't happening. Like, I'm not carrying on with this. Like, the minute I can get to an age where I can tell my mum I'm not doing it anymore, I'm not doing it. And that's that.
Totally.
But then obviously it then developed, like, cycling became a lot more. I mean, 2008 just catapulted track cycling into everyone's kind of like imagination. It was like all of a sudden all these superheroes were coming from British cycling, and then that really changed it for me. Then I started to believe. So from when I was like 16, I probably thought this can be something. But I mean, I never believed it could change my life to what it has done. I mean, it is my life.
Well,
ultimately.
yeah, like you are a how. I mean, I was pretty nervous coming on it today. I've only ever seen you on BBC with Claire Baldwin, to be honest. You know what I mean? Hey, I've got a confession to make here. When you said about the outdoor track at Welling, you started on, I have been on a velodrome.
Oh, you went there?
No, I went to. Have you been to Palmer Park in Reading? The outdoor track there.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask you actually how you got into the track, but I guess it's like that. When I was racing professionally as a downhiller, my mechanic lived in Reading. On a Wednesday night, he was like, yeah, come over the track. And we used to just bomb around this track, you know, round and round, outdoor, but I didn't sort of associate it with. But is that a velodrome? Has velodrome's got a roof on it, right? It's different to what this didn't have. I want to go on something with like near vert walls where you've got to be going fast or you're going to slide to the bottom.
No, yeah, it's still a velodrome though. So that's how we all start. So anyone like who doesn't live near, obviously the kids now are actually quite lucky because there's indoor velodromes spread across the country. But when I first started, Manchester was the only one. Yeah. And then Newport in Wales got built. So then that became sort of a bit more local. But I mean, it was still a 3-hour journey from where we lived. Huh. So like the only velodromes we ever went on was your Palmer Parks, your Howes Owen, your Wellings. Like, so that was all we ever really knew.
It's mad, and it must be mad for you to see, like you said, tracks everywhere, just how much cycling has blown up at home, like especially since them 2012 Olympics. I mean, you'd be a big part of that, but it's mad, isn't it? Who hasn't got a bicycle in the UK now? It's bonkers.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously for us, it's brilliant because the more it becomes because we ride all the time, and it'd be nice for Alwie for it to be normal. You know what I mean? Like he won't have the whole, I don't want anyone to see me. Like it's nice the fact
Right,
that, I mean,
yeah.
he said to me, and okay, like I get, right, he's growing up in a cycling family. I understand that. But he turned around and said to me, Mummy, when can I get a bike with skinny wheels? And I'm like, skinny wheels? But what he obviously meant was a road bike. And so we got
Right.
him this little second-hand Team Sky road bike, and he loves it, and he calls it his race bike. But you don't get many. I mean, I would never have been like, can I have
would
a
have
road
never
bike,
said
Dad?
that,
Like,
yeah.
just no. Whereas now, children are into that. Like, they see what other people have got, and they're like, oh, I would like that too.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are mentioning the different surfaces, like the different types of velodrome. That's actually something that I don't know anything about. So can you just talk a little bit about like the outdoor tracks? Like, are they all, is there some structure, I guess? Like, what is the right word? Like a regulation velodrome, or are they all kind of different?
They're all literally completely different. So like Welling is an outdoor concrete 500 metre. Actually, it's not quite 500 metres. It's like 477 because they drew the white line on in the wrong place.
Good
or
place to
something
set a
like that. I don't know.
record.
But
20 metres short of lap.
terrible track, and like they're all so different. Like so Welling's really really bumpy. Like honestly, it's like you might as well be riding on the road. Well, you can ride a road bike round it. Whereas if you go to Manchester, it's 250 metres, and obviously it's wooden. So like trying to ride a road bike round it is actually quite difficult. Well, I think your pedal would hit the floor. I think it'd hit the wood.
Is that right? Why, do you have higher bottom
Yeah, so
brackets on
'cause-
your bikes then, or short crank?
Well, the crank length, the crank length's shorter.
Is it?
No way.
Yeah, yeah.
really?
So, but I mean that can be really specific to you as well. So, like I always rode 165s, but Jason had 170s. So, like
yeah,
it's all really specific to what you want.
Yeah.
I would have always thought that like you would be running these like super long cranks for like the maximum amount of torque, because like that was what we would ride on downhill as 165s as well.
But it's more it's more aerodynamic to have a shorter crank length.
Okay.
No way. That's a factor.
Huh.
So you're telling me that there's a difference between a 165mm crank and a 170mm means that there's 5mm at the top and 5mm at the bottom. That makes a difference in your aerodynamic performance.
Yeah. So saddle height and everything. So like we lowered our saddle height because saddle height made a difference to aerodynamics.
Did you guys spend?
No way.
Did you guys spend a bunch of time in the wind tunnel?
Oh, like you wouldn't believe. Yeah, I mean we've built one now. Like so, Manchester Velodrome's got one. Like so, it's got its own wind tunnel now because that is like it is just such a huge part of it now. Like more so
It's
than
like the
anything
Formula
else.
One of cycling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it is. It is. I mean, that's how it started. I mean, our paint, I think, was it McLaren or someone painted our bikes for us with some special paint because they'd already used it in F1. And like we use lots of the people from like the Formula One world. Like there's a guy called Tony Pennell who he worked with the F1 before coming over to BC, and he like absolutely changed our aerodynamic kind of like thinking process. And he was such a huge part of. Do you remember British Cycling and the Squirrel, like the Secret Squirrel Club? Like,
No,
so
wait,
the Secret Squirrel Club
tell us
basically
about that.
was at. Right, so pre Beijing Olympics, basically this group of boffins got together and they put this package together where it was like our bike, our skin suits, our helmets, and they looked into everything. And we were basically the first team to ever do it. And it was all done by this Secret Squirrel Club. And like Tony headed that, who had obviously come from F1. And then they rolled this package out. Like, so they go to the Olympics, everyone's got these new bikes, these new skin suits, these new helmets, and they destroyed it. And everyone was like, what the heck? Like, because they'd just never seen anything like it before. Yeah.
Could you tell the difference, like when you got on that, like when you get on a new bike or you run a new kit or whatever, like does it change the way that you ride?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Like you can tell massively. I mean, you can use bigger gears and all sorts because you're just traveling through the air much faster. So you can use bigger gears. Like it just feels so much better.
So you're prepared, or you have to compromise your ideal riding position for aerodynamic position because ultimately you will be fast around that track. Is that right? Yeah, and you don't mind because all the road cyclists I know used to measure their seat height. You know, it's like the position is absolutely crucial as far as I know. But there you are saying, yeah, we run a seat a bit lower. You know, it seems mad.
No, yeah. Well, it took a bit of convincing for me as well, because I used to be that person. If you just said, "Here's your bike, set it up," I could get it to a T without using a tape measure. Like I
No
could do
way.
it purely off feel. And so then when they say to me, "Right, we're lowering your," oh yeah, yeah. Like, so I did this. In fact, it was an individual pursuit. Very boring. I had lots of time to think about how my saddle height was, and so they gave me this bike, right? And I said, you need to put $500,000 in. And he's like, $500,000? And I'm like, you need to put $500,000 back in my saddle height. And so I set off in this individual pursuit and I start, and I'm fuming. I'm like, he's not put that $500,000 back in. And then I come off a track, and this first thing, I'm like, he definitely hasn't put it back in. And then they take the seat out, and then you can tell by how many spaces are in there. And he hadn't put the $500,000 back in.
No way.
And he's like, really? $500,000? But like, I could just tell it didn't feel right. It wasn't right.
That's so
yeah, it took a bit of
wild.
convincing.
That's like
Some of the changes were massive, like dropping it by like centimeters.
That's wild.
That's another changing kind of thing at the minute, like that's developing. Like some people, so I've always known track cycling to be like tubs, and so like they're glued onto your wheels. To be honest, if you ask me what tyre pressure I use, I have absolutely no idea.
No way.
But you know the seat height down to the $500,000.
We have a compressor. No, right. We have a compressor in the velodrome, and you just hold it on until it won't go anymore. And that's all I know. So I can't actually know.
Oh my God, the science has gone out the window.
It's just set though so that you can't explode them. So
Give it a
I
squeeze.
just hold it on.
Oh, is that what it is? It's
Yeah.
probably like 200 PSI.
Job done.
You might be putting helium in
It's
it.
fine.
They did try helium in
Do you
the
know
tyres.
what, right?
That's true.
They've tried loads
it?
of random things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? That's true, that is, yeah.
I've heard about people now going back to like your traditional clinchers. So like you got a tube in there.
No way.
I mean, I don't know. I'm
Really?
honestly, I am no technical.
No, I don't
and it
believe
being
you.
faster.
I totally don't believe you. Like wind tunnel, mill, like half mill, different paint, and then next minute you're just like pressing on the tire. Seems good to me. Yeah.
That's what our mechanics are for. They're brilliant people.
Yeah. What is the like rider mechanic relationship? Because like in downhill and cross country and stuff like that, like they're like psychologists. They're your friend. They're like making sure your bike, like your life is in their hands almost.
Oh yeah, like honestly, our mechanics are brilliant. I mean, I think everyone has different kind of relationships with everyone, like within British cycling. But the mechanics for me has always been like a hub. Like, so you go in there before the session, obviously, and they'd have done anything to your bike. Like literally, the only thing you do is gas your tyres up. So like, if you want any changes made, they'll have done it for you. And so you just have to go and get it off your peg and take it down into the track centre. But for me, I go in there like at lunchtime and stuff, and I sit there and I want to know about them. Like we travel around lots with these people, you know, and so like I don't really see them as mechanics. I see them as friends. And so like there was two guys that have always been there. I mean, Mark has actually just left British cycling, but Mark and Ernie used to just be like my lunch buddies. Like I'd just go in there and I'd sit eating my lunch in the mechanics with them. Because like it's just nice. Like for me, like I know these people really well because of the amount of time I've been on the programme, but also the fact that they travel to every bike race that I go to, that I've ever been to. So like you've got like 12 years of friendship. So like these people are friends, really.
How many different bikes have you got?
Technically mine, not many. I don't actually own bikes, like, because we
How many
obviously
do
get
you
given
use
them.
during like Olympic? I guess each track event has a different bike, does it, or is it the same bike for all of it?
No, so it's different bikes, but it's also dependent on the event, right? So in Rio, I went through something like 6 different bikes because they weren't made to actually, like, so some of them, I mean, I rode one once and then that was it, like it broke, so we had to get rid of it. Like they were breaking all over the place. So, so like at the Olympic, well, because the thing is, right, we made them as light as physically possible, but we kind of, I guess they underestimated how much actually, like, the stiffness kind of was a big part of keeping a bike held together.
What do you do with a bike? When you're sprinting, you are literally trying to rip the cranks and the handlebars off it. It's fact, isn't it?
Yeah. And like loads of things was happening in the background that I didn't even know about. So like so in the Omnium, the first event used to be the Flying Lap, was it? I don't know, confused. Honestly, it's changed that many times. whatever it was, right? I'm going up for my first event, and the mechanics noticed that it's cracked, that my frame had cracked, and they just were like, oh God. And like within like a few minutes, they literally had to strip everything off and put it back on. Also, because I noticed things, like they're like, oh my God, like it has to be these pedals and it has to be this saddle, because she's going to know, like she's going to get on that start line and be like, this isn't my bike. And like the fact that I do notice things as well, I've noticed that Katie Archibald's bike, so in between two team pursuit rounds, right? So we're going up for the final, and I look at Katie's bike and I'm like, that just says Britain. Like it didn't say Great Britain on the bit like where it was written, like on the top tube. And I was like, that's really weird. And then afterwards we go down to the container where all the bikes are being kept, and Katie's bike is literally in half. And I was like, wow, like they must have changed that in between the two. And we had an hour. So
that's
so they must have gone up and changed it quick. Mad.
Yeah, that's so crazy. I the other thing that it makes me think about is like, what's the feeling of being on a velodrome? I was listening to G's podcast, and he was talking. You were saying it's like being in a washing machine going around the velodrome. Like, what do you mean by that?
I mean, that is what it can be like. Like honestly, because it's just you are literally riding around in circles, and when you've got all the equipment on and you are flying around that thing, it is just like a whirlwind. Like laps pass you by like you wouldn't even imagine. Like because you don't look at the lap board imagine looking at the lap board 120 times. Like you're never going to do that. And so like 1 minute you'll look at the lap board and it will say you've got 100 laps to go, and you're thinking, God, this is going to be a long time. And the next minute you're like, oh my God, I've got 20 laps. Like there's not long left to like change the outcome of this race. And like, yeah, it's like a whirlwind. It's just like constant, you know what I mean? Like it's constant thinking and it's a constant flow.
Yeah, and I mean it's really interesting because to me it feels like a pretty confined space, and a lot of the time you're competing with other people. Is there a lot of like trash talk? Like what are you doing like next to somebody? Like we heard Luke Rowe talking about that on the road.
Yeah.
You know, with the different teams, and sometimes you'll cut somebody off. Like what's that like on the track?
Well, it's not like that at all. You know, we get in lots of trouble. I think because it is confined, like they hold us by quite strict rules, and like movement on the track is a big thing. Like you can't do anything too dramatic. So like you couldn't just turn right and go up the track just in case you take someone out. So like there's lots of rules. And like, to be honest, you only ever really get the odd person shout or scream, obviously, if they're going to crash. But it's not, you don't really hear like much talking at all, to be honest. Like it'd be the coaches shouting at the side of the track, because obviously they're in a better like viewing spot than we are. Like they can see the whole thing. I can only ever see like 2 or 3 people that are around me.
Yeah, I mean that is funny. Like what is the crashing like? Like is there some skill where you're like, okay, if I'm gonna crash I need to yell out or something like that so people know? Because like you guys don't have brakes and it's like fixed gear as well.
No, yeah, I mean, to be honest, no. A lot of the time it takes you like completely by surprise. Although I would say, like, you're better off just crashing. Like on the track, if you think you're going down, just accept you're going down. Like, because there's nothing worse. Like, you end up coming off a lot worse if you try and avoid the situation.
Save it? Wait, so
like,
you just take a dive?
Yeah, well, not take a dive. Like, I wouldn't be like, well, hey, here goes. But it is just like, it is just a bit like, oh, crap, like, I'm going here. Because on the track, because obviously everything comes back down. So unless you've got time to go over the top, you're going down. Like, if something's gone down in front of you, there's very little time to actually do anything about it. And like you say, you can't brake. So if there's something in front of you, that's it. You're out of there.
When you talk about these indoor velodromes, and they are, aren't they? They're normally made of wood, right? Are all the indoor ones wooden? And like I guess they're made up of like little planks, right? But do you? When I was getting obsessed with Graham Obery, he found, like, I know you don't go for the hour record, but the different tracks run at different speeds, right? Do you have a favourite track? Do you notice the difference between velodromes?
Oh yeah, massively, yeah. And also different temperatures. So like, I always think one of the fastest tracks in the world is Newport in Wales. And now you wouldn't think it, because it's only, like it's made just in like a shed. Like you wouldn't think it should be a fast track. But whenever we go there, it's like 30 degrees. Like they heat that thing for us. Like they have no energy bill crisis. They just heat it. And you go, and it is, honestly, it's one of the fastest tracks I've ever been to. But obviously, if you go to altitude tracks, they're the quickest in the world. Like Mexico is the quickest track in the world
because of less air resistance. But then, but I suppose you adjust to the lack of air. Your body does, but you're literally cutting through less air. Is that right? No way.
Yeah, but obviously it's difficult with the whole. You have to get used to it before you go. I mean, we did very little before the first time we went. Oh, and it was hell on earth. Like I was throwing up all over the place because like you're just not used to breathing at that. Oh, it was awful. Yeah, like even before the start, I'm like, I'm gonna die. Like there's not enough oxygen in this building. And then you're expecting to perform at the same level.
Right.
And did you say that they heat Newport up to 30 degrees and that makes it faster? Is that what it sounded like? How come? I thought that'd be too hot to ride in.
No, because like obviously there is a point, but like the hotter it is, the better. And so, yeah, Newport always get it so right. You go in there and you think, wow. Like,
does air temp have to do with your performance or?
Well, it's your body, isn't it? Like, it heats your body up. Like, it's just, like, you go and warm up, don't you? You warm up to get your body nice and warm and nice and ready. Yeah. Well, Newport heat it up so that it never cools back down. So in between the warm-up and going on the track, it stays warm. I mean, we use heat pants and everything. Like, so we will put pants on to keep us warm. We don't have to in Newport because they keep it warm for you.
Wow.
I didn't know that. Yes, you run hot and it's good. That's how it is.
Yeah, you want it to be warm. Yeah.
Laura, this has been so fascinating. So coming up to this Olympics, what disciplines are you going to compete in this next year?
Well, I mean, I think to try and go for all three again would be one hell of a task. So, I mean, for me, I would just be happy if I made it back into the team pursuit team. Like, it is the one that I enjoy the most. I mean, I love the Madison, don't get me wrong. Like, going to the first Olympics where it was and to win it for the first time was something that, I mean, I guess I dreamed of, but I never thought would happen. Yeah. Certainly not in the way it did. But I think the team pursuit's always had my heart. Like, it's always been the one for me. It's the one that I started in, and it's the one that I would like to try and get back in.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. This has been amazing.
It's been enlightening. It's been so much fun. Yeah. It's been great.
Biggest track cycling fan now.
Yeah, it's right. And we will be watching now.
Yeah,
it's going to be awesome.
Oh, good. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on and giving us your time. Amazing. That's it.